An identity crisis can be many things. Losing your sense of purpose, a midlife crisis, returning to civilian life, or simply feeling like you don't belong. My life has been one ongoing identity crisis after another. I've started this podcast to help deal with my own demons and negative self-talk, and to ultimately and hopefully learn that I'm not alone, and that these thoughts and feelings aren't unique to me. So if this helps you too, then one by one we can come together, heal ourselves, and move forward with our goals and dreams with a sense of belief, happiness, and purpose. Hi there, welcome back to the Identity Crisis Podcast. I am your host, JNewtz, and today I have a wonderful guest, Mr. Marselles Heihei. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic, thanks.
Wonderful. It's great to have you over here. Now, of course, I've known you for quite a few years. We met through my movie, The Party Bus, and of course, we've gone on to become good friends with you and your partner, Donna.
Yes.
So, now you came to the Identity Crisis show. When you hear the phrase identity crisis, what kind of things come to your mind?
For me, personally, I see it as someone that is just trying to identify who they are. That's how I see it. And unsure of who they may be sometimes, I feel.
Yeah, I think it's something that we can all go through in our lives. I mean, you could always argue that, like, if you start a new school when you're a kid, that's an identity crisis because you don't know anybody and you're not too sure how to fit in. Same thing if you start a new job, or if you come from the army going back into civilian life after 10 years. I suppose it could be a whole plethora of things, couldn't it?
Most definitely.
So,
touching on the whole school thing, it was the big scare factor because you know nobody at all. And then there's that huge fear of, will I be accepted?
Definitely. I think it's more fearful if you change schools halfway through your school years, whether that be primary or secondary. It happened to me. I remember starting grade 4 in a new school, and all the kids had grown up with each other. They all knew each other. Friendship groups had been formed, and you're then given a friend. You can't choose your own. You're given a friend on your first day, and you try to fit in, and then that kind of defines where you're going to keep going as such, and it can be very challenging.
Exactly.
Did you have a similar experience at school yourself?
Because my dad was an insurance rep, he travelled around, which meant we moved a lot. I went to 9 schools in 1 year.
9 in 1 year? Wow. 9
in 1 year. The only downside to it is I keep getting the exact same curriculum and nothing new. Because of the cycle of how they did the cycles of the programs, I ended up learning the same thing over and over. Made me very good at it, I guess, but not so much other things.
So arguably you only had 2 months of education per year.
Pretty much. Which didn't make me very bright per se. Yeah.
So how did you fit in, like, if changing schools that many times in just 1 year? How did that have an effect on you as a kid?
It was hard. It was so damn hard because you develop a new friendship of some sort, but it's short-lived because I had to move on to a new school. It was horrid per se.
And I'm assuming that those schools were nowhere near each other. Like, they could have been an hour away.
Oh, heck no. It was nationwide. So I travelled for all of New Zealand. I mean, I got to see all of New Zealand on that basis, but yeah.
I suppose you see the good and the bad. I mean, look, the thing is, when you were kids, life is tough because you're not only discovering who you are as such. And what I mean by that is, not your morals and your values, because I think as a child you're not really thinking that way. It's more, are you outgoing and social? Are you sporty? Are you artistic and so forth? And I know with me in my school years, I was very happy and comfortable up until the end of grade 3. Everything was going fairly well. I didn't have anyone sort of picking on me and bullying me and so forth. But then when I got into grade 4 and I changed new schools, it all changed, and that's where I was bullied a lot. I wasn't accepted by many people. I wasn't sporty. I was more artistic. The friendship group I kind of slid into as such were not the most liked group at all. They were quite childish for their age, and I kind of got stuck with them. And from my point of view, a lot of insecurity started to develop. I wasn't very confident. I became more introverted, and that carried on for the rest of my schooling life. So I think the formative years with a lot of big change like that, it can really have an adverse effect moving through life toward adulthood, couldn't it?
Well, I mean, I was bullied all the way through school because I was nerdy looking because I wore my glasses because I have the worst eyesight ever. But I got bullied a lot, and more so because of my name, my birth name.
And what is your birth name?
My birth name is Blaine, and if it's looked up in the English dictionary, it means inflamed sore. So I got picked on based on that. So I was called a scab. Oh, you're just a scab. Da-da-da-da-da. You don't even come to school for lunch and all that sort of stuff, and you're scabbing off people. It was so hard. It was so damn hard.
Yeah.
But then that's where the bullying came in, and it just made things so hard for me growing up as a child. Because of that, I was like, yeah.
So I mean, how has that moved forward into your adult life? I mean, for example, as I said, I went through a lot of bullying myself, and I know that there's a lot of the sort of bullying talk that I've heard over the years. It still sticks in my mind to this day, and it affects everything I do, the dreams I have, the goals I have, the way I interact. How is bullying? Has it had a long-term effect upon you, or is it mostly just within those school years?
Nah, it's been my whole life, and that's why I'm in the process of changing my name legally. Just because, it's been so damn difficult living my life knowing what my name meant based on what I was told from kids. I didn't believe them. I just thought they made it up, and then I chose a day to look it up in the dictionary, and I was mortified of knowing what my name meant. You know, a lot of people have names and they mean some really cool things, but mine, inflamed sore, I'm a scab. It just mortified me. Absolutely mortified me.
It's
and with the bullying along with it just did not help at all growing up.
It's really sad to hear that, because I mean, when I met you and and you're like, oh, my name's Blaine, I'm like, what a cool name. Like, I've never met anybody with a name like that. And to me, and I think also a part of this is because I have been bullied through my life. I think you'll also have the same outlook. You tend to not want to make other people feel bad because you know what it's like. But when I heard your name for the first time, I was like, what a cool name. Like, I know nobody with that name. And obviously with DJ Cool B, which we'll get into shortly, I mean, obviously the B is from Blaine, and it works so well. And I see you as like, yeah, well, to me, it was just this amazing, cool name. And to know now the history behind that and the way that it affected you with all the bullying, and to know that now as an adult, many, many years later, well and truly that school's over for you, you're now in that process of legally changing your name. It's hard to hear somebody open up and say that's affected me so much that I want rid of it completely. I mean, how's that struggle been for you for the past 20, 30 years?
I mean, like I said, that's why I want to change my name legally, because I can put all that behind me. And I'm still the same person, but just the name has to go, and because it's just played so much on my life. If that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, do you find that it's something that you've held on to mentally as a child, where the bullies don't exist anymore? There's no one picking on you for your name or what they say the meaning is, but like that's all gone, but it's still in your mind, and the bullies exist between your ears rather than physically in other people. Do you find that?
Oh, yeah. It's because I have mental health issues as well because of these issues, and it's been a big impact on my life, because sadly I have attempted suicide because of it.
Wow.
On many of occasions. Like, I've had over the years 12 attempts at suicide. Obviously failed miserably because I'm still here today.
Well, congratulations for failing.
Yeah.
I mean, the positive in it.
That's the plus side because, that played a big impact on my life, and hence I felt worthless. I felt loved and all that sort of stuff. And I went through the mental state of, all that kind of stuff. And I did stupid attempts of attempted suicide because of. And that was my crisis in my life because it affected me so badly that I wanted to end my life. And it's not cool.
No.
I mean, I had an event, to be honest with you, not so long ago, a few months back, where I got to that headspace again and wanted to end my life again. But there was someone that reached out, who's my fiance, and she brought me back, which I love her for.
And that's amazing, isn't it? You know, and
absolutely.
I think it helps to show us that what goes through our minds and the way we perceive ourselves is not the way other people perceive us. And you've got somebody there who thinks the world of you, loves you to the moon and back, or maybe even further. You know, and that person is they all rock, aren't they?
Oh, that she definitely is. I mean, because like I said, I've struggled with it all my life, and she's given me a bit more of a better perspective on life now.
So look,
because at the time I was attempting what I wanted to do, I wasn't thinking about anybody.
Look, I don't want to get too dark on this subject because I know that when I get dark on subjects, it can be hard for me to pull myself out of it later on. So if it gets too dark, let me know and we can move on. But
yeah, no problem.
When you start to get into that headspace, what's been the lead up into sort of those thoughts accumulating with you to sort of, because I'll be honest with you, I mean, I've never reached that point where I've thought that particular way. I've been very depressed in my life for different reasons, but it hasn't progressed into me wanting to exit my life. So how has that spiral happened for you? Is it purely just that you're focusing mentally on your name, or has there been something that's triggered that for you?
For me, the main reason behind all of that is I was assaulted as a young boy.
Wow.
And that kind of threw me into a whole new realm of life because it was something I never expected. And that's where that mainly stems from. But then my mind goes 10 to the dozen and I'm thinking about all the days where I was bullied and going through those tough times as a kid. And no one believed me until I ended up in hospital because I was bullied enough where I had a felt tip shoved into my eye and I was nearly blind in my left eye.
Oh, Jesus.
It's caused damage. Like I'm partially blind in that eye, but no one knows that.
Wow.
And that was through bullying. This kid just stabbed the felt tip pen into my eye for no reason. Because he didn't like me, apparently, is what it came out in the end. But yeah.
It's horrible because I mean when you talk as an adult and you hear things like that, you think, Jesus, what would make somebody do that? But then if you think about it logically, and I'm not giving excuses for anybody because bad behavior at any age is bad behavior. But I know when you're a kid, there's a lot of impulse behind your actions. There's not a lot of thought process that goes into it. And I think becoming an adult is actually becoming mentally responsible for every action and decision you make, whether that's good or bad. And as a kid, you're developing that.
Correct.
So that could have been a spirit. Like, oh, bang, no thought went into it. There's a pen, there's his eye. And I've had experiences like that where I had a kid come to me once in woodwork. It was a combined class where I was in year 7, I think, and then the combined class was year 8. And this guy came up to me and he just grabbed me by the shoulders and just gave me the biggest dead leg on my right hand side. And I dropped to the floor. I couldn't walk for the rest of the day. And there was nothing there at all. I did nothing to provoke him. We were on the other side of the room. He just wanted to walk around and go, oh, I'm just going to give this kid a dead leg. Like no thought went into it whatsoever. And it was the most painful experience. And as an adult, the repercussions are, well, if I do that, I could get charged, I could get thrown into jail. So, you're still working out that cognitive right and wrong, but as kids, you're very impulsive, aren't you? But some kids are impulsively arseholes.
Yeah, I mean, I was also punched in the face with my glasses on and the glass shattered as well. It was that bad. I mean, I was the target at school because I looked so nerdy or whatever. How they saw it, I don't know. But yeah, I was punched in the face with my glasses on and it shattered my glasses.
Jesus. See,
luckily, no physical damage, just personal. Yeah.
So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, following on from my identity crisis stand-up show, because what I'm learning just through talking to the people I've spoken to so far is there's experiences that other people have had that I have had. Now, for example, I was talking to a girl the other day, Freya. She's amazing. She's got this great energy about her, but she was always told by her parents, "Oh, you're a hypochondriac," and I was like, I went through that. And now you're telling me that, well, I was bullied in school. I was the one that was picked on because I was the nerd for no reason. And all I can think of is, well, hang on, but I went through that. Like, I remember being on the bus and I had an apple thrown at me. On the last day of grade 6 graduation, I was walking up to my mum and some kid, jumped behind me and threw an egg on me. And I went home literally with egg dripping down my back. I got thrown into lockers for no reasons. I was punched in the face because somebody in class didn't like me. I had a block of wood thrown at me and it literally narrowly missed my head. I got picked on for no reason. And it's just interesting to hear how someone else has also gone through that. And this is what I mean before, like, it doesn't help fix the situation back then, but you learn through conversations like this. So, well, I'm not alone in this. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm so sorry you went through that, man. I really am, because I know how it feels. It's horrible.
It is. I mean, I lost count of how many times I was deliberately pushed over and whatnot, because it just happened all the time that I got to the point where I just got used to it happening.
I got to the point where I used to just take off days of school. I remember wagging so much, and in year 7, I wagged probably about a good term or half term because I was so fearful of going to school. I didn't want to get bullied. And the weird thing was, to show how bad the bullying was, at the end of the year when my report card came, it said I'd been absent for 4 days rather than about 40 days. The teacher clearly didn't give a fuck that I wasn't even there. So like the bullying was just horrible. And I know what you mean. You don't want to be there. But as I said, I mean, I've never reached that period in my mind mentally where it's taken me to that dark headspace. But obviously, you have, and I think it's hard to deal with. So, but how have you dealt with those situations when that darkness starts to cloud in your mind? I mean, naturally, there's been times that you've dragged yourself out of that through whichever means before trying to attempt anything. How do you cope in those situations?
Well, I've always struggled. Hence the multiple attempts at suicide and whatnot, because it gets so damn tough, and just feeling so alone, but not realizing I was actually not alone because I struggled to reach out, is what I discovered. But having an amazing partner has taught me a lot and given me a lot of new tools, and to be more vocal about how emotionally I'm feeling, which is something I've never done before, and it is helping.
I think as men,
it is helping.
As men, I think because we're conditioned to grow up and act your age and be a man, I think that we're learnt from a very young age to not be as emotionally connected. So when you become an adult, you have to sort of relearn that, it's okay to express myself. But when you find somebody that you can open up to and it's effortless, that's amazing. So let's talk about your partner for a minute. How did she come into your life? Tell me, where did you meet? How did the whole thing happen? And when did you realize that she was your rock?
Well, I'll start from the beginning. I was on holiday in Bali, and I just decided to start the online dating thing. And I got a message from this amazing woman. She reached out and said hello and da-da-da. I'm based in Melbourne, da-da-da. And I responded with, yes, I'm in Melbourne. She goes, great, we should catch up. And I went, I will be happy to do that when I return from Bali. Now, the thing with that is that she's saying, oh, well, he's in Bali, he's with someone, but I was there by myself. I shuttered myself for my birthday and went to Bali for my birthday.
That's awesome.
Had a great time. It was fun over there. And yeah, we met at the McDonald's car park in person.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And what it was supposed to be just a quick catch up to meet each other in person and say hello. And this was about, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And we left the McDonald's car park the next morning to head home.
Wow.
Because we started talking and it was just non-stop. It was amazing. And yeah, it just progressed from there. And then in less than 2 months, I moved in with her. And
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That and
we're coming up to
so brilliant.
And this is 7 years later, and we're engaged now, and still haven't set a date because it's COVID just threw that out of the world because we were supposed to get married during COVID. If COVID wasn't present, we would have got married. But yeah, we've kind of just put it on the back burner for now, but it's still going to happen.
I suppose the thing is, look, obviously marriage is that celebration of two people's love, but at the same time, you live together, you're with each other daily. Marriage is that legal binding as such, but the thing is, you've already had that amazing soul binding together, which has lasted, 7 years so far, and a marriage certificate.
And we work together now.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. So through that 7-year period, how has your partner really helped improve and enrich your mental state? I mean, as you say, you still have mental health issues now and a form of an identity crisis, but how does having that amazing partner help in your life?
In all honesty, I have never come across someone like her. Her support is above and beyond, and it is something I've never experienced before with past partners. She just has been there for me all the way through, and her support is just blowing my mind because I've never experienced the love that she has for me before in my entire life. And I just embrace it. She's 1 in a million per se. Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, obviously, that's going to have such a huge positive impact on your emotional state as a person to know that there is somebody out there who thinks the world of you. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you find yourself getting into that dark headspace, there would come a point of realization and go, but there's a person here who has got my back and who loves everything I do and is there for me every step of the way. And I can't do this to her, let alone to myself.
And that's 100% correct with the last attempt that I had. It was a wake-up call for me. I was like, I think I'm all alone, but there is someone right there reaching out. But at that point in time, I didn't see it until a certain point. And then went, oh my gosh, what the heck am I doing? What the heck am I doing? It's made me reevaluate how I looked at it, which I'm blessed with, knowing that I have that amazing support, which I've never had before in my life. Because growing up, bullied, and like that girl you were talking about before, I'm a hypochondriac and all that kind of stuff. I was just reaching out and going, this is what's happening, but it got brushed away.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the difficulty has come into my life because I felt I was never heard. And that was the struggle in life, feeling not being heard.
It is.
Even though you're spilling your guts.
Yeah.
You're spilling your guts and being so honest. And you get called a liar and all this, you're making stories up and all that kind of stuff. It just blows your mind. It blows your mind.
I remember there was a time in my life where the bullying was so bad and I hated school and I was scared of going to school so much. I remember crying at home. And whilst my parents were supportive, I think there came a time where they were supportive to an extent that because parents never know what really goes on at school. They see what happens in your report card and they hear things at parent-teacher interviews, but they never really, and they will never really know the full story. And there came a time when I was talking to my mum and dad, and I remember sitting on their bed and I was crying, and I can't remember which of the two it was, but I remember them turning around and saying to me, well, listen, this keeps happening all the time. You must be doing something to provoke them. And all I was ever doing was being me, and I couldn't understand. Well, if I am, what the hell am I doing? And as an adult, it was only a few years ago, I learnt that I'm dyslexic. I learnt that I've got a form of Asperger's, and whilst through my life I've been able to recognize things and improve and grow. As a kid, you don't know anything like that, and it was always that whole thing of, well, but what am I doing? I'm just being me. I'm not going out. I'm not picking on them. I'm not going out there to be annoying or anything like that. They are just targeting me, and I never knew why that was, and it was so hard for my parents and also even just teachers in school to basically be like, right, this is a recurring problem. Clearly, it's something that you're doing, so bad luck. It's now just your problem, especially at school.
Yeah.
I think teachers are meant to be there for you, but very seldomly, if this keeps happening again and again, the support doesn't seem to be there. And the disappointing thing for me is these days, they're all about safeguarding and empowerment and so forth. And I almost wish that I was a child now in 2024, because kids now, if they're bullied, there is so much more nurturing, understanding, support and everything. And all this. And I remember going to all these different school events, because I've been a photographer for many years, and I've been shooting all these award ceremonies every single year for the same school for like 20 years, at a school that I went to for a little while. And all I can ever think of is, wow, if I got a portion of this kind of support from teachers and education, everything, if this mentality existed 20 years ago when I was in school, I would have had a far better school life, and I may have been stronger mentally growing up. So it's good that the world is changing. I couldn't
agree more.
But for people like you and me, we've gone through the very, very fucking hard yards.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you say, it's certainly changed in schools to how it was when we were in school. I mean, the proof is shown of where it's at today, which is fantastic. It's great for the kids today, but it was certainly not around back in our day, per se.
No.
Yeah.
And in some ways, you have to look at both sides of the equation. At the moment, you go, it's fantastic that kids are being believed and the bullying is being stepped upon, and mental health is an issue that matters and they're talking about it in schools. But then there's that other part of you that goes, but there's that kind of tough love aspect of things that we need to also go through in order to develop a thick skin to handle things like rejection of asking somebody out, or I didn't get the job, or I didn't make the baseball team.
Yeah.
So there is that form of tough love that we still need to learn and experience to get ourselves through life, because life is always ups and downs. So I think that there is a danger of it going too far where everyone's, too sensitive. But at the same time, we've come from a period where there was no sensitivity whatsoever. It's like, oh, just get over it, man up. And I think being a man as well, there's more of an expectation of just deal with it. Whereas if we were girls, then it would be, oh my God, so when you come over here, let me give you a hug, and you'd have some friends. And I think there's more nurturing for young girls than there was in our time for young boys.
So I grew up with my family, like uncles, aunties, parents, and that. Their statement to me was just harden up. You just need to harden up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I believe I am, but obviously I'm not, if you're saying that to me. You just need to harden up. You need to harden up. I'm like, wow.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because it's horrible advice, but at the same time, that's probably the advice they were given when they were kids. It's a generational thing, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the reason why I was getting hardened up is I grew up in the gang life. With my dad was a gang member, and all his brothers were gang members, and that was their life, which I didn't like anyway. But hence, you need to harden up. You need to harden up. You need to harden up. And I went, are you trying to condition me to be like you when I definitely don't want to be like you, per se? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's how I felt. You're trying to condition me to be like you. I don't want to be like you. I don't need to be in a gang and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It is hard. So I'll tell you what. Let's move on to something a bit more happier. Now I know you, of course, are very very creative in your own right. Let me start that again with that coughing. Well, let's move on to something a bit more light and bright and happy. I know that you're very creative in your own right. Talk to me about DJ Chillbee and your passion for music.
Music is my escape from everything. That's why I love it so much. I like to put music out for people to enjoy. and music that people love.
Sorry, carry on. Like, is that through like creating your own music, or is that through mixing music? Like, how did
I used to create a lot of my own beats about 10 years ago, but I kind of stepped away from that and just concentrated more on the DJing side of things. And just, I like to entertain. As far as music's concerned, getting people up on the dance floor and enjoying a good night.
Absolutely. So tell me, like, you know, you've obviously got DJ Chill B. How did you sort of create that name, and have you got a persona that goes along with that particular brand? How does that evolve for you?
I just went with it because it just sounded cool.
It does sound cool.
Chill B, yeah, you know, and yeah, I mean, it wouldn't sound good as Chill M compared to Chill B. Yeah. Because I was asked, am I going to change my DJ name? And I said, no, I've already established it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing all right. I've got, I don't know, I've just started online and I'm already at 1,800 followers, so I must be doing okay.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're doing something that's creative, you know, you always bring your personality into anything that you do, but as any sort of performer, or even as an entrepreneur, you are allowed to put on a sort of an alter ego as such, to sort of be an embellishment of who you are, not something completely different, but you are an embellishment of who you are. And DJ Chill B, it's you, but it's a brand of you, and it comes with a style and an attitude, which it's not your day-to-day life. It is something that you embrace for that particular role. Because if you were DJ Chill B all the time, you'd need an escape from that somehow. Yes. So talk to me about this.
The whole concept of Chill B is the music is for you to just chill out and enjoy what you're listening to. That was my whole concept of coming up with that DJ name, Chill B. That's where that is.
I love
That's where that's established from.
What sort of style of music are we talking about?
I mainly focus on hip hop and R&B because that's what I grew up with. And I'm a big fan of the 90s hip hop and R&B because the music, a lot of the hip hop today is, you can't even understand what they're saying, which is really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I can't call that a song if you don't understand what they're saying because of the style that they use. All these new terminologies for rap now is just like, yeah, I'll leave it there. But I use what I feel people like. I check the charts all the time and what people are into, and that's what I use in my mixes now. What people are flowing to.
I was never really a sort of a hip hop person of the 90s and so forth, but I remember hearing, you know, the common ones on radio, and whether it was because of the way that it was recorded this way, or my dyslexia, or both, I always used to think that that song "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls" was a guy called Jason Waterfalls, and I didn't know what the hell that was. So who is this Jason Waterfalls? What a weird name.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just a whole sort of, you know, misheard lyric concept, I guess. But I mean, with music, I mean, obviously music is a huge passion of yours. Have you found that music has been a saving grace for you during your dark times, especially even growing up as a kid?
100%. 100%. Music has always been my go-to to keep my mind free from what I don't want to be thinking about. In my darkest times, music settles me.
And has it always been the hip hop type of music? How did you find the style of music that you really resonated with in that period?
I mean, I'm more towards R&B than I am hip hop. Hip hop is just the go-to, just because people like it. So I just generate to it. But yeah.
So who are some of your favorite artists then?
Well, because I grew up in the 90s, it's the likes of Biggie, Tupac, and the like.
Mm-hmm.
The two main, Biggie and Tupac, and then there's a whole lot of other artists along the way.
So were you a fan of the movie Straight Outta Compton?
Yes, I was.
Very, very moving movie.
I kind of relate. I mean, the gangster type movies I kind of relate to because I grew up in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of relate to it in somewhat, like The Godfather and all that sort of stuff. They're good movies.
Very good movies.
Yeah.
What about Eminem? I mean, if you look at his movie 8 Mile, whether you like him as an artist or not, I mean, I remember watching that movie and a lot of that sort of resonated with me. It is that underdog story. And I suppose Rocky, the movie Rocky or the Rocky franchise, and then Creed, which has come out in the past sort of 10 years, same sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think from my point of view, and I know that everybody loves an underdog story, but I think that when you have actually been the underdog, I think that those movies or you know, comedians or musicians, any form of artists who have come from that dark period of their lives, I think that people who have gone through that horrible experience in their life of bullying and suicidal thoughts and everything else, I think that the music or the comedy or the movie or whatever it might be means so much more to them than somebody who never experienced that.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that, for sure. I mean, like for me personally, when I'm uncomfortable, I seem to become a wannabe comedian. I joke about because I'm so uncomfortable.
Mm.
But people resonate from that and go, "Oh, you're so damn funny." And I went, "Well, that's not what I was intentionally wanting to do." But yeah, that's what I do. I crack a lot of jokes and whatnot when I feel uncomfortable.
Mm.
I didn't realise I was doing it, and it was funny enough that my partner Donna mentioned that to me. She goes, "I have picked up that when you're uncomfortable, you joke about quite a lot, and it's actually quite successful for you." And I went, "Well, I wasn't actually seeking success. It's just I was uncomfortable."
It's a coping mechanism, isn't it?
It is, and that's. I mean, I didn't realise I had developed that. That I go into this. I call myself a wannabe comedian. I couldn't do what you do, mate. I mean, your shows are brilliant.
Oh, look, look, nobody starts going off doing their own 1 hour show. I mean, like, I can tell you about some horrible experiences I've had on stage. You know, nobody. Yeah. When I started comedy, everyone else who was learning at the same time as me did their first gigs within 6 or 7 weeks because that's what the course instructor wanted to do. They wanted to push us onto stage.
Oh, wow.
To not just to go out there and try your best, but you're learning the craft, but you need to get stage time. And it was go out there and try it, have a go, get stage time. I did my gig a year after everybody else because I was so shit scared. You know, but once again, that's my crisis going through my mind. But you build up to it, and these days, whenever I walk on stage and do my thing, behind the curtain, I'm basically shitting myself. But then when you walk out to the music, and I do that on purpose because music has always been a big thing in my life where it can get me into a headspace or take me away from a headspace. And you walk out on stage as your alter ego and you do your performance. And people, it's interesting when you sort of in that alter ego headspace, it's almost like your true self comes out because you've walked out as a portion of your true self, but then you allow yourself to be your true self, and that's what people eventually resonate with. So I've actually got every belief that if you went on stage, even if you just did a minute of comedy, it would work for you because the strange thing is if you can talk about your own experiences and talk about your own life and make jokes about it, people aren't laughing at you. They're laughing at the truth, and people are like, wow, I've done that. I've been that stupid. I've had that experience. And it's actually, comedy is a good cathartic way of, number one, dealing with your shit, and number two, bringing people together for them to deal with their shit. And a lot of people can't, you know, and if you find that it's a way that you can do it, then hell, do it. Even if that means just doing it at a party with some friends. You don't need to go on stage. You know, people will love it. But by the sounds of it, you're doing that anyway without even realizing it.
Yeah, well, that's, as Donna pointed out, she goes, "You're actually damn funny, but you just don't realize that you are." And I said, well, when I feel uncomfortable, that's my go-to every time. And if I'm making people laugh, then that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Because then I don't feel uncomfortable anymore because I've lightened up the environment.
And the thing is, the gift of laughter is one of the best things that you can give to anybody, because you can literally make
100%.
make their whole day. You can change the way that they're feeling, which is it's so powerful. It's better than money, better than anything, because if you can kick those endorphins off and make somebody laugh, you can watch all the troubles in their life for that moment in time that just don't exist.
Yeah.
And I'm getting into the show Friends. I never used to watch it as a kid, and there's many reasons for that. I always used to think, it's a stupid show and blah blah blah. It's not funny. And don't get me wrong, I still don't find it very funny, because American humor in their comedy shows isn't really humor. What I tend to find I gravitate towards is I become invested in the characters, and I can laugh at things that the character does. And talking about using comedy to make yourself feel comfortable, or in situations where you're introverted or whatever it might be. In Friends, the character Chandler, played by Matthew Perry, is exactly the same. He's always cracking jokes, but then through the series you sort of go, well, he's come from a broken home, broken family, hasn't had long relationships and so forth. And I'm watching this show going, fuck, Chandler's me. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is like looking into a mirror from 20 odd years ago. Oh, fuck.
It's funny how that is, though, in a certain way.
Yeah, very much.
I wasn't a big fan of Friends myself, but I got roped into it. And me was, what the heck's his name?
Joey, Ross.
Joey. I related to Joey. Funny enough. I think that's it. Yeah, so Joey?
Yeah, Matt LeBlanc's character.
How you doing, that dude? How you doing?
How you doing? I'm Dill Chill B.
Yeah. His persona, that character.
I think that one of the things that made that show and other shows, I mean, as I said, I also love The Big Bang Theory. I think that's
a great show.
Oh, it's a brilliant show. And I think that, like, as I said, for me, I get invested in the characters, not so much the script. But I think the reason why I get invested is because I can see aspects of myself, not in one particular character, but in certain characters. So, for example, I can see myself in Chandler, but I can also see a lot of myself in Ross in Friends, being that more quiet, introverted person. But you can see how over the series, Ross becomes more outgoing, more confident, more outspoken, and he gets to where he wants to be in love and everything else like that. And that was my journey with The Big Bang Theory. It's interesting as well because Howard Wolowitz, he's the nerd, but he's the funny nerd where he still doesn't get the girls very much. But he's playful and he uses humor. He does all these accents. I'm like, well, that's me. And I think that I get invested in these shows because I can see parts of my personality play out in other characters. But then arguably you could say, right, Big Bang Theory, there's 6 main characters. Friends, there's 6 main characters. I think that almost everybody alive can identify with 1 or 2 of those 6 characters.
Correct. Yeah.
What a winning formula that is. So tell me, moving forward, how do you see Chill B moving forward with your creativity, and also talk to me about when you're changing your name legally. Is that a process that is happening in the now? Is that like, does it take a long time to change your name? How is the journey evolving?
I'm still trying to figure that out and what processes I need to take, because then I've got to do change of license and so forth, change passports, and that's a big deal. I mean, not a big deal, it's just a long process from what I've been told. Right. But I'm happy to get across the line and I just want that done. And then I'll be happy within myself regarding that.
I guess the
change.
The first and most immediate change is when you're meeting people, you can just introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Marselles. And because people obviously typically remember names and they talk to people using other names, I suppose that's the easiest and most simple and instant form of identity, isn't it?
Well, it's already happened at work. I've been there 5 years. I started off there as my birth name, but now I'm referred to as Marselles.
Mm.
To the point where my work gear has Marselles on the shirt. And everything I fill out is Marselles. And that, but I have to do the legal change so I can physically change the name via work, because my pay slip is still my birth name and all that kind of stuff, but I've got to do the legal side of things so it can be changed to Marselles.
Mm.
And by the way, Marselles is not a made-up name. That's actually my second name.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. I actually have 3 middle names, Marselles being the first of the 3. I'm like, wow, what's up with my parents giving me 4 names? Like, come on.
So here I am just thinking
And
that
then-
you were greedy, but...
No, I was given 4 names,
Wow.
which is really strange. So my full name is Blaine Marselles Jeff Geron.
Jeff
Heihei.
Geron. Wow, it sounds like you're part of Jackson 5.
Yeah, well, Geron is short for Geronimo, funny enough.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I'm curious,
Yeah.
having such a long name, have you ever asked your parents, well, why did you choose this name and why did that name come after this name in the sequential order? Have you ever had conversations like that?
Well, because I found out what my birth name meant, I asked my mum, why did you choose that name? She goes, I just liked the sound of it. Now I went with it. I did not know what your name meant because I didn't bother to look, because I didn't think it would be in the English dictionary. And when I told her, she goes, well, that's your name. I'm sorry. Like, I've told her I'm going through the whole legal name change. She goes, well, I'm still going to call you by your legal name.
Mm.
I went, cool, Mum. It'll only be you doing it.
I think there is also a generational thing. I mean, I've got a trans member of my family, and whilst her transition happened 15 or more years ago, before the world became fascinated in gender identity and trans and so forth. But I know that even to this day, it's still difficult for certain members of my family from that generation to properly accept it and to use the new name, and refer to, her or my aunt or she. And it's not because they're being, they're intentionally being ignorant. It's that whole thing of, well, they grew up with somebody for 50 odd years calling that person as a he and a him and with the name when they were born. And it can be very difficult sometimes it's like learning a new skill when you get older. It can be difficult to retrain your brain. And unfortunately, I think the older you are if you're a part of an older generation, because that generation didn't grow up with the understanding of identity and mental health and gender and everything else like that, so that we're experiencing and growing with and learning now. I've seen in my family, there's a big part of, well, that affects me in my life because that person isn't who I grew up with. And you can't tell them. It doesn't affect who you are as a woman or a man or a brother or a sister. It doesn't have any effect on that whatsoever, because this is that person's journey, that person's decision. And all you have to do is, you don't need to understand it. You just need to respect that is their decision. And with your mum, for example, I don't think she's intentionally trying to be ignorant. It's just she comes from that generation of, well, that's your name and that's your name, and I'm your mother, so I will always refer to you as that because that was my choice. And I don't think she's doing it to spite you.
Correct. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're correct.
Mm.
As you say, that generation, hey, that's what I named you. That's what I'm calling you. Why would I change it?
Mm.
That's how I perceive how my mum sees it. And I'm like, cool, Mum.
So tell me, if I know that you've got a family, well, you and your partner. How do you go through daily family life with the kids whenever they have issues that arise either through bullying, or if they've got dark thoughts, or if they they want to change their identity in any particular way? How have you found dealing with a family now has helped you in your journey?
It's fantastic. Like, Donna's 2 kids, I mean, they're not kids anymore. They're both adults. What we both love is that they're happy to approach us and talk to us about any issues they may have, because they're doing what you should be doing and seeking advice. And we love the fact that they're capable of coming to us and talking to us openly about how they feel, whether they're in a relationship and they're having relationship issues or general life in general. And it's fantastic because I never had it as a young fella. And then for us able to use our own personal experiences in life and whatnot and to discuss conversations with them and make them feel better about themselves is fantastic.
Yeah. I think
absolutely fantastic.
Creating that nurturing environment. And I think that you've sort of touched upon this. I think what you're ultimately talking about is you are willing to be vulnerable and open up about your life and your experiences to the family, which in turn has made them realize, hey, I can do the same thing back.
And that's exactly what has happened. Like, I'm not afraid to speak about what's happened to me because of how much it affected me in my life. And if I can reach out to people and make them feel better about themselves, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
And the thing is, I mean, that could just be one person, and you've still made just a difference, haven't you?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, like her son, he's 22, 23, coming up to 23. He's having to talk to me about a lot of things now. Like he has Asperger's, and he struggles to communicate, but he's comfortable to talk to me, and I feel great about that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It just puts a great feeling in my heart knowing that I'm able to reach out to him, and he's comfortable to relate to me back and forth, and he walks away happy. And look, even to the point where he might even have a little joke about a couple of things that we've discussed as well, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, because look, it shows that I suppose the message has reached out, and there's been a form of resolution, I guess, rather than internal conflict. If you can start openly discussing it, and as you say, joking about it, then that's healing.
That's how I looked at it. He's healing from what he was dealing with, and he's in a better place than where he was before. And I'm like, fantastic. That is fantastic.
You know, one of the things, we brought up Asperger's again. I learned through an evaluation many years ago that I had a form of Asperger's, and the way it came about in the conversation was very, very strange. Because the shrink basically said to me, "Oh, you have an overwhelming passion for steam locomotives, and that means you're Asperger's." And I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" But the thing is, when he's described more about what Asperger's was, and to be fair, I thought the guy was being a dick. He was a very old school, black and white, no fluidity, no open minded. It was this or this. But once I embraced the difference of Asperger's, I remember my comedy mentor saying to me, do you realize that the greatest artists, the greatest writers, poets, playwrights, actors, comedians, musicians, they've all been what we call on the spectrum in some way. And if they weren't, we wouldn't have the likes of Mozart. We wouldn't have the Johnny Depps. We wouldn't have Robert Rodriguez. We wouldn't have, amazing, artists in our world. And that helped me a lot in accepting, there isn't anything wrong with me. If anything, this is something that I should embrace. But at the same time, I also know that there are certain traits. Now, for example, I realized this when I was younger, that I used to talk a lot, and I used to talk to the point where the conversation probably would have ended 10 minutes ago, but I just kept going and going and going, and I didn't pick up on the social cue from the other people that, we're finished, but they were too polite to say to me, shut the fuck up and go away. Whereas as an adult, I started to realize that this was a pattern, so I trained myself out of that. I think it can still happen from time to time, but it was something that I became quite aware of, whereas a lot of people with Asperger's, and there's different levels of it, part of the condition of it is they don't pick up on those particular social cues. And I think if you've got somebody in your family, whether it's a son or a friend or a nephew, whoever it might be, male or female, it's important that they don't feel that that's a problem. I think it's great that they can recognize that's a pattern, but they should obviously never feel that, this is something that is wrong with me, because ultimately it just makes them feel worse and worse and worse, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, and that's an issue that her son had, because people are aware of his condition. they kind of used it against him in the wrong manner, which I thought was really crap. But I was able to just offer my opinion and suggestions on whatnot and how to tackle it, and it's worked wonders for him. Because he really struggled there for a bit with a particular person, but he was able to take on what was said and flip it, and it ended up back on that person. That person felt really, really bad and got to the point where he actually apologized.
Perfect.
Because he didn't realize he was doing what he was doing, which I thought, wow, that worked a treat.
Isn't it
to get
interesting?
an apology.
There's a lot of bullies out there who probably don't intentionally bully to be the arsehole. It's just they don't know how to deal with the emotions themselves through whatever they're experiencing behind closed doors.
Correct. That's just their mannerism of their way of dealing with it. As well, I'll just lash out about it then. I feel
it's that, and it's that, and a lack of understanding, isn't it?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, most definitely.
I mean, if you're a narcissist or a sociopath, then that's a different story altogether. Then you're just born a horrible person. But I think and we've all met people in our lives like that, and they can't help being that way. That's just the way they are. But bullying,
and they don't like being told either.
No, they don't know. They will then make your life very, very difficult for as long as they can before.
As I discovered once.
Away. Oh, same with me.
I discovered that once.
I
oh my gosh!
Yeah. Well, talk to me about your experience with having a narcissist in your life.
He was a friend of a friend, and he was a full-on narcissist. He did not care for anybody. As long as he was okay, he didn't care. And I kind of I'm not going to go into details, but I kind of put him in his place, and it made him wake up for a bit, but then he just went back to who he was, because that's what he's comfortable with. And I can't have people like that in my life. I just stepped away from it. That's how I dealt with it. I don't need it. I don't want it.
No.
And just, yeah.
And I think if you've had a narcissist in your life, the best thing you can do is learn from that experience, so that when you meet somebody else who shows those traits, at some point you know how to walk away straight away, rather than rather than waking up one day going, oh, how the hell do I get out of this?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's exactly what I do. Yeah. I spot it a mile away, and it's just step away.
Look, I mean,
not get involved.
I know from personal experience these days that if somebody is trying to become your best friend very, very quickly, and they're saying things like, "Oh, we've got great connections, like we've known each other for years," it's like, "Wow, we just work together," or "I've only known you for a few weeks," and I don't feel that particular way. I've realized that's a sign. It's like, okay, time to step back, because otherwise it gets very deep very quickly. And if there's one thing I've learned about narcissists, they will do their best to destroy you in whichever way, and they will always walk out as, oh, I was a victim, but look at how perfect I am. I tried to help everything, but this person, they make you feel that you were the problem. And I think I'm not too sure of the name of the movie, but it's got Matthew Broderick and Reese Witherspoon, and he plays either a teacher or a headmaster. No, he's a teacher, and Reese Witherspoon is the student, and shit doesn't stick to her. And as much as Matthew's character tries to talk about this is what's going on and so forth, at the end of the film, he's the broken man. He loses the career, loses respect, loses everything he's got. And she is this smiling thing of, look how good my life turned out. I've now got to where my goals are. But she's stepped on him and so forth. But at the end of the film, he still looks like the bad guy. And that is exactly, that is a perfect personification of narcissism and how it all works.
Yeah. So become a good judge of character when it comes to people in that mannerism. It's pretty easy to spot nowadays for me. It's okay, I gotta go.
Do you feel that going through all the trauma in your life has actually made difficult situations and difficult people easier to identify and walk away from? Do you feel it's actually had that kind of help?
Yeah, 100%. Just first words coming out of people's mouths will let me know what type of person they are straight away. Funny enough.
Well, they do say
the
first impressions.
Pleasure meeting you.
first impressions count, don't they?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
So tell me.
I mean, I have been told that I'm judgmental, but I mean, how so? How can you say I'm judgmental? Well, you're passing judgment on someone. I base it on the first things that come out of their mouths determines what type of person they're going to be.
Mm.
I say that may sound horrid, but I know I'm going to have a good conversation or a conversation I'd rather not have.
When someone says that you're judgmental, I actually find that being a bit of a cop-out, because the thing is, you use your judgment every single day of your life in certain situations, and that is when you meet somebody new, do I feel safe around them?
Yep.
Can I trust them? Or whatever the case may be. Is that car going to stop for me even though that I've got the right of passage at these lights or the pedestrian crossing? You're using judgment all the time. So for someone to me, being judgmental is walking and looking at somebody and going, that guy looks like a fag. Like, that's being an arsehole. That's what judgmental is. But being judgmental around life in different situations, there's a difference between being a prick and just being aware.
And that's where I fall into, I'm just being aware. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not saying, I'm not being a judgmental prick and going, no, look at you.
Mm.
No way. No. I couldn't be a prick.
No, and I get that. And
I don't know how to be.
Look, I think that when you've grown up in a very hard way and you've gone through bullying, you've got mental anxiety, identity issues, depression, whatever it is. I think that as you get older through life, you do subconsciously as well as consciously, you do harden up, you do toughen up, and sometimes that exterior can come across as, oh, that person can be a bit of a prick or be very, very judgmental or very short or whatever the case may be. And if anything, it's more just of a coping mechanism so that you don't fall back into that headspace. You're not trying to go out there and be a prick, but some people will see that part of your personality, which is just there for your protection, for yourself, and that inner child that's still within your mind, and they'll look at you and go, oh, that person's a prick.
100%. And that's all it is for me today.
Mm.
How I am today. It's not because I'm out to be a prick. It's just, if I'm not like, what's coming out of your mouth? I'm sorry, I can't be a part of yours in your life.
Yeah.
You can have that conversation with people who are on the same level as you, but I can't do the same. Sorry. In the politest way, man, possible,
Yeah. I don't, if they're not getting it, then it's a different story. Then you can tell them, hey, listen, I told you nicely, now I'm just telling you to fuck off.
Correct. Which is, but in honesty, that's far less than common these days for me. I mean, they seem to get the idea straight off by the sound of the way things turn out. So I'm like, oh, I'm happy.
I think a lot of it comes down to what you attract as well. I mean, I remember saying to someone for a while, she always attracted the same sort of relationships and the same sort of friendships. And I said to her, I'm not trying to have a go at you here, but I said, if you're having the same experiences all the time, but with different people in different situations, with relationships and jobs and friendships, I said, subconsciously, there's obviously a part of you that is attracting that. So you need to work out what it is that you're putting out into the world, or the way that you talk or carry yourself or whatever it might be. You need to work out what it is that keeps attracting that person or those people and that same experience into your life. Because once you've identified that and you can make that small change within yourself, you'll realize that the bullshit starts to go away. And I used to always attract a lot of drama into my life, but these days I don't get the drama phone calls or drama situations where it becomes this big soap opera that plays out over the space of 4 weeks. That shit just doesn't happen. It bounces all off me because I recognize the pattern and I changed it.
See, that was happening to me a lot in my 20s. Back in my 20s. I seem to have had drama drawn to me, not the other way around.
Mm.
And I couldn't understand it. People were drawn to me and they were just full of drama in their lives, and and they want to dump their load on me. I'm like, wow, maybe I should get into counselling.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I ended up becoming everyone's bloody go-to for unloads. I'm going to use the word unload. They're unloading their life. And I'm like, okay. per se. I'm just like, wow. But because I'm a damn good listener, I can say that for sure. I will listen unless it's something I don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Per se. But I'm a good listener, so I think I became a magnet to people. Oh, I got to unload on you. And then they're all thankful because, oh, thanks for listening. And I said, well, at the end of the day, it comes down to you, and the decisions you make in life will determine where you want to be.
Yeah.
That was always what I'd say to people. You're only going to get to where you want to be. If you need to make changes in your life to get to where you want to be, then make it happen. Because that's what I had.
Yeah.
I had to do that with myself personally. I have to make changes to make my life better, and that will step away from anything negative. And I love it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
I had an experience many years ago now where a friend of mine, I saw her just before Christmas one year, and I drove up to see her, and I was actually really happy, and I was in a really good mood. We went for a walk for about 45 minutes, and when I got back into the car, I was so unhappy. I was like, wow, she just drained all of my energy. And I remember driving back home thinking to myself, I don't want that anymore. And and since that day, and this is, oh God, maybe 7 or 8 years ago now, or whatever it was, I haven't seen her since. I haven't spoken to her. We never emailed or text. And the thing is, it was reciprocated. She obviously picked up on the fact that, well, I'm not getting through to this guy, or whatever she happened to feel or think. But I remember very vividly that day. It's like, I don't want to be around people who suck me dry of energy. And that was a big learning thing for me. And since then, I have walked away from not just people, but situations like that where you go, that is, I may have wanted to be a part of that or be with that person or that particular thing, but if it's going to give me that feeling, I can get that from something or somewhere or someone else. And I don't need to be here right now anymore. And that's very powerful. But once again, I think that shows mental maturity. And I think that growing up with a lot of hardship in your life, I think it helps to get you to a place of realization a lot quicker, because you realize that I don't need to feel that way anymore. And because I've had all these things happen in my life and I've got these defense mechanisms as such, I want to make sure that I keep growing into a happier life and happier decisions and more positive experiences. And so for that reason, for my own protection, I will walk away.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I feel. I relate to that. And I like where I am today. I'm in a happy place.
Well, look,
but there's no drama. There's no drama. That's the part. I was in terrible. I've been married twice, unfortunately. Just the drama behind both of those marriages. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Mind
blowing. The end story of both of those marriages is that they both jumped the fence, per se. And I was like, why are you in this relationship with me if you want to be somewhere else? Why did you choose to marry me if you want to be somewhere else? I don't understand. I struggled with that. 2 broken marriages, and I was deemed as the villain out of the whole situation. I was like, wow, how so?
Yeah, it's hard.
We had children together. I went to work so I could provide for my family. How am I the villain out of that? I couldn't understand it. And that was just for their own justification of what they were doing. That's what I discovered with it.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it that way. It just drew me down, dragged me down. It was like, oh my gosh. But those sort of things, wow, you know? Relationships, you know?
They can be hard work, can they?
Oh yeah. I don't have that issue now. In the relationship I'm in, it's not hard work at all. It's fantastic. It's so smooth. I use the word smooth.
And it should, and it really should be. I mean, I've had people in my life talk to me about, oh, look, you know, you don't realize how hard I need to work to make this relationship work. And I said to them, well, if you're working hard at it, then you probably shouldn't be in that relationship. I mean, look, every relationship has its ups and downs and hardships, but ultimately, you shouldn't have to work on getting along, respecting somebody, having fun, laughing, whatever it might be. Like that shouldn't be work. That should just be the natural part of that relationship, which actually makes it a relationship. Everything else is just a chore. If you have to put the effort in, it's a chore.
Yes, a chore. But yeah, like the relationship I'm in, it is just fantastic. From the very first day we met, it has just gone so damn well. I mean, relationships have their downs occasionally, but we sorted through it in no time at all. And we moved on and we've grown together, blah, 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 so forth. Things are fantastic. Couldn't ask for anything better, to be honest.
Do you think that Marselles as a young boy could have ever imagined his life becoming the way it is now, having an amazing partner, being in a great place, making people laugh, enjoying music? Do you think that as a young kid you ever would have felt that hardship could have led you to a journey where you've become the person you are today, which, if I may say so, you sound like a stronger and a happier person and continually becoming happier?
Yeah. What I know now, I wish I knew then.
Don't we all?
I would have made a lot more better decisions back then. I mean, just going back to my childhood, I was making a noise, like getting myself into trouble because I was reaching out, but no one was hearing me, so I got myself getting myself into trouble just to be noticed, but it was for the wrong reason, unfortunately. And getting my backside tan for it. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
That's something that certainly changed in today's society. You can't raise a hand at a child anymore. You get arrested.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course.
But back when I grew up, boy, I got tanned so much. Gosh. And it did wake me up not to do things.
It's like we said before, there are some things where you need the tough love, but there's other times where it's too much and the wrong type. And it is finding that balance where it's not being cruel, but it's not always saying, here's a pillow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, look, so wrapping this conversation up, I mean, look, first of all, I think you've opened up to me so much, and I really hope that there's listeners out there who can resonate with things that you've said about your experiences in your life, your childhood and so forth, and they hopefully realize that they're not alone in any similar experiences that they've had. But moving forward, Marselles, tell me, what is the next chapter for you? Obviously, there's a marriage coming sometime in the future, which I'm so excited to hear all about. But what is the next step for you moving forward in the next few years?
Grow old. I'm at a point in my life where I'm turning 50 in 6 months' time. So,
wow,
half a century. I'll be half a century in 6 months. And the frightening thing is, as everyone keeps telling me, I do not look my age.
No, you don't.
That's a bonus.
I can attest to that as well. I mean, I know people who are 20 years younger than you who I would go, oh, you're in your 50s, and they're like, no, I'm 31. It's like, oh, sorry. I had that experience once. I thought there was I used to do karaoke every week, and there was one of the regulars there, one of the ladies. She had, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but she had leathered skin that was puckered like an elephant's kneecap, and yeah, exactly. But she used to smoke like a tree and drink all the time, and she just had horrible leathery skin. And I thought she was probably pushing 60. She was in her mid 40s, and I was like, oh. And I'm 42 now, and I get people saying, oh, if I had to guess, I'd put you like 28, 32, like no more than that. I'm like, well, yeah, if you think I'm 32, you can add 10 more years to that. And the jaw just, and look, and I mean, I saw you when I was back in Melbourne recently for the comedy festival. I always assumed that you were actually a lot younger. I thought that there's no way in hell you surprised me. You're about to turn 50. What the fuck, man? Because you don't look it. You don't look it. You don't dress it. But the other thing is you don't act it. And I think that there's that. Look, that has changed in society a lot these days. People are no longer going, "Oh, I'm old, so I need to act and look old." People are realizing that no, you can still be happy and playful and youthful up until the day you drop it. That generational mentality has finally vanished, which is wonderful. But, you know, I mean, to know that you've got to 50 years.
To this, right? 9 times I've had people say I was 27, which is my eldest daughter's age. 9 times. Wow. Oh, wow, you're saying I'm the same age as my daughter. What does that make me?
Lucky.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Well, look, as I said, I mean, look, starting this conversation, and hopefully you can realize this as well, when we started this with this podcast just over an hour ago, the conversation was very dark. You know, you weren't very animated at all, but through the past, 70 minutes, there is now so much happiness and joy and animation in your voice. And that is, to me, to me, that feels amazing because, it isn't just going on that journey of what you've experienced, but you can just tell through listening to how you're talking about your life and progressing into how you are now. And you can say, I'm going to grow old, and you're laughing about it. I mean, God, if you were still in the headspace that you were as a kid, you would not be joking and laughing about it now. You'd be basically, it would be the polar opposite. So, I think that
I would be.
without realizing that you have pulled yourself through your life in such an incredible way, even though it may not feel this way, I think, what you've done is inspirational, and I can only hope that your story inspires other people as well.
I hope so too. And all I can say is to everybody out there, talk to someone if you're not feeling good about yourself and whatnot. Reach out. It's something that I struggled with, and at my age now, I realise how important it is. If you're feeling really down and out and whatnot, just reach out to someone, because there's always an ear to listen to.
Yeah,
that's what I learned. Yeah,
what a wonderful lesson to end this with. So, look, Marselles, thank you so much for being on the Identity Crisis podcast. It's been an incredible pleasure talking to you, and I really hope that people have got some value out of this conversation.
And all I can say is thanks for having me and listening to what I had to say.
Thank you for listening to this episode. And remember, it's only an identity crisis if you choose to make it one. It's okay to not be okay. So speak up and talk to someone, or be the one that someone can turn to in their time of need. Don't forget to follow this podcast wherever you're listening. And if you're interested in being a guest on the show, send me an email at jnewtzcomedy@gmail.com. I'm JNewtz, and I'll see you next time.